Welcome to the Pre-Snap Podcast presented by LineStar, your top 5 NFL player picks on Underdog Fantasy for Week 8. I cannot believe it is Week 8. Alongside my co-host Tyler Wiemann, I am Shannon Sommerville. We got some great picks for you heading into this weekend. Tyler, how you feeling? It's Week 8. Can you believe it? We're about to be coming up on November next week. It is wild. This season has flown by.
Wild. Yeah.
Okay.
We wait all year for it, and then it's like gone in a blink of an eye.
I know. Well, so far this season, we're doing all right on Underdog Fantasy. Last week, we were 3-1. Of course, your pick was Pat Freiermuth, but unfortunately, he did not play in that game. After we had taped, they announced he was hurt. So we were 3-1 last week. Overall in the season on Underdog Fantasy picks, we are 16-18. So looking to get that number back up into the green here. Let's get it going here for Week 8 Underdog Fantasy picks. If you don't already have Underdog Fantasy, go ahead and download it. Use the promo code LineStar when you do, and you'll get up to $100 if you're a first deposit match. Plus, I should mention the tool that we're using to help us in the prop department is called the PropsAI tool. It's available on the LineStar app, so make sure to check it out at LineStarApp.com. And lastly, if you haven't already, make sure to do us a huge favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment below. A comment enters you into our prop bets contest. If we hit all 5 of our props, one randomly selected commenter will win $200. If Tyler and I both hit our props, one randomly selected commenter will win $50. So you got to be in it to win it. Comment below. Also, it helps us out in terms of the algorithm and, you know, just getting the content out there. We're coming out with a lot of content this week. And next week is the sports equinox, Tyler. Did you know that? On Monday, all 4 major sports going on. We got Major League Baseball action, the World Series. We've got NBA, we've got NHL, and we've got Monday Night Football. It's an exciting day of the year, especially at LineStar. So make sure to get LineStarApp.com for all the sports needs that you could have for daily fantasy and sports betting. So make sure to check it out. All right, let's get right to it. I've been blabbing along here. Let's get right to it. We're going to start things off with Saints wide receiver Chris Alve over 59.5 receiving yards. I know there's been a little bit of a disappointment in the Saints offense, especially with Derek Carr and his connection to some of the wide receivers, but I think Olave's in a great spot this week. He's averaging 67.3 receiving yards per game this season and has actually gone over that line 4 of 7 games. Going up against the Colts. Now, the Colts rank 19th in pass DVOA versus opposing team's wide receiver 1. And Tyler, an interesting stat that I found was just how good Chris Olave is in terms of his explosive plays. He has the 6th most explosive plays in the NFL. Or Indianapolis allows the 6th most explosive plays, and Olave ranks 6th in deep target rate. I know they haven't exactly hit all the time, but the potential is there for Olave to have a big game in this one. So I like his spot this week.
Yeah, I definitely like his spot. And we've seen several good receivers have huge games for some. Hopkins went for 140 yards. Nakua, 163 yards. Collins, 146. Ridley, 101. So I do really like this prop. I think that number 59 is just too low for Olave when, I mean, he is an elite receiver. Him and Carr have seemed to not always be on the same page, but he's being targeted a ton. He can get deep. He can give those explosive plays. So I like it.
Yeah, this is a really vulnerable Colts secondary. And actually, another interesting stat for Olave, he has the most targets without a drop this season. I think that's pretty impressive. And he's also pretty fast as well. He's one of the best at creating separation. And I think it's only a matter of time before he starts putting it all together. Go ahead, Tyler. I know where you're headed with that speed comment.
Was that a dad joke of him getting arrested?
For speeding? Hey, you know what? He's got the pedal to the metal both on and off the field. I'm not really exactly sure the whole story with that, but yeah, so recently in the headlines, Chris Olave did get arrested. He was going over 70, I think in like a 35. It seems like that's not going to affect anything. He's not going to be suspended or anything at this time, but it is something worth noting. Sometimes when those off the field things happen, they could affect, a player's mindset heading into a game. But in this matchup, it's just too good for me to pass up on, Tyler. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. I think he's going to be fine. I'm not that worried about the rest situation. I mean, The worry would be he just doesn't play, which means our bet's voided. So who cares? I like
Yes,
the spot.
exactly.
If he's playing, he's going to get over.
Another impressive young receiver, Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens, and that's where we're headed for our next prop. Over 54.5 receiving yards at -124 in your sports books. LineStar's projection for Flowers is about 63.3, so some nice edge there in terms of our projection. Flowers averaging 63 receiving yards per game, has gone over at 5 of 7. And this is one of my favorite matchups for the week because the Arizona Cardinals have allowed the most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers this season. In fact, they have allowed 9, count them, 9 opposing wide receivers to go over 54.5 receiving yards. If you can go back and go look, lots of triple-digit figures in there from guys like Cooper Kupp and Jamar Chase. And I actually think Zay Flowers is an exceptional young talent that absolutely can put up big numbers. Another interesting fact, Tyler, is Arizona plays zone coverage at a top 5 rate this season. And they actually have one of the worst coverage grades in that zone defense. Well, Flowers has absolutely thrived in zone coverage this season. In fact, he is tied for 18th for fantasy points per route run against zone coverage this season. When I saw that stat, my eyes lit up. I like this one. What are your thoughts on Flowers and the Baltimore Ravens in their matchup this week against the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I clearly think he is the best wide receiver on this team. I really like this spot for Flowers, and I think it's only a matter of time till he has a huge blow up game. And I do believe there is a chance that it is this week at 5,600 on
Yeah.
DraftKings. I think he is way too cheap DFS wise,
Yeah.
but the line is also a bit too low for just prop bet. So I like him in this spot a lot.
And the Baltimore Ravens offense seems to kind of be coming together at this point in the season. We knew there was going to be a little bit of, I guess, maybe a slow start given the fact that they have a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken from University of Georgia, but they now seem to kind of be firing on all cylinders. And man, when all of those weapons, Lamar Jackson kind of playing at an MVP level right now, Tyler. So any prop that involves Ravens offensive players is a good bet, right?
Yeah, and it's, to take it another step forward, Arizona's allowed 39% more pass attempts when at home. Zay Flowers
Interesting.
obviously needs those pass attempts to
Mm-hmm.
succeed, and he's one of the most targeted receivers they have. So I like the spot for Flowers.
Well, one of the most targeted wide receivers for the Atlanta Falcons is Drake London. That's where we're headed. Another receiving yards prop here for us. Over 48.5 receiving yards. This is a little bit too low for us considering LineStar's projection for London this week is 59.4. London's averaging 54.7 yards per game. And going up against Tennessee, this is a common place we find ourselves week in and week out, picking on a Tennessee secondary that ranks 32nd, dead last in DVOA versus opposing wide receiver ones. Tennessee's giving up 187 yards per game to opposing wide receivers. If you look back at some of the players that have gone against them, they've all gone over that 48.5 receiving yards line. And so this is an excellent spot for Drake London. What do you think here? I mean, I know we're a
Yeah,
little bit hesitant with the, Atlanta Falcons in general can be a little bit
mhm.
wonky, to give you a technical term, Tyler. But I like I like London spot though.
A very technical term you're busting out there, but yeah, I really like London as a receiver and in this spot. We said earlier in the year that we thought the Tennessee pass defense was one we were going to continue attack week in, week out, and we kind of have. I mean,
Hmm.
six WR1s have been
Yeah.
over this line, so it's a good spot. He is by far their number one wide receiver on that team. There is a little bit of concern about the targets going his way due to it being, a lower volume offense as far as the pass department comes.
Hmm.
But this is a guy that has had 6+ targets in every single game outside of week one, where he just disappeared and had one target. Outside of that, he is constantly targeted, and against a poor pasty, I think he's in a
Hmm.
great spot for Tennessee.
And as far as that Tennessee Titans defense, they play man coverage at a top 10 rate, and Drake London torches man defense. He's actually top 20 in top 20 wide receiver in fantasy points per route run against man coverage. That's pretty darn good. So where do fantasy points come from? Receptions and receiving yards. So we like the over here for Drake London. All right, Tyler, now it is time for you and I to pick our favorite props of the week. Where are you headed for your pick on Underdog Fantasy this week?
I'm going to go with one of the best running backs in the game versus a defense that's just not that good at stopping the run. We're going with Travis Etienne over 61.5 rushing yards versus Pittsburgh. They've allowed 104.6 rushing yards per game over the last 9. So I think he's in a really good spot. He's averaging 72 on the year. The consensus and LineStar projection is for 74 yards. So I think he's in a really good spot to go over. And those projections give us enough little buffer there that we should be able to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Steelers defense actually ranks 19th in rush defense DVOA. So maybe you think their defense is pretty solid, but actually against the run, they have not been all that efficient. So a good prop there for ETN. For my prop bet on Underdog Fantasy, I'm going to the Texans. Texans wide receiver Nico Collins over 51.5 receiving yards. That's around minus 138 in some of the sports books. So you're getting good value on Underdog Fantasy. Collins has been exceptional this season. And going up against Carolina, who has been very unexceptional on defense. In fact, they rank 26 in pass defense DVOA versus opposing teams wide receiver 1. Now, Collins, on the other hand, has gone over this mark 4 of 6 games, averaging 91.2 receiving yards per game. And when you look at this Carolina defense that I mentioned has been unexceptional, well, they just got more unexceptional because all of their players are hurt. Carolina's defense completely depleted by injuries. We've got cornerbacks J.C. Horn and safety Jeremy Chin on IR. Safety Xavier Woods has yet to return from a hamstring strain. And then you've got safety Von Bell, who suffered a quad injury. His status is unknown. And then he's also got a softer matchup against Dante Jackson and CJ Henderson, who have graded really poorly this season in their perimeter coverage. Panthers play zone defense, third highest rate in the league. Collins, meanwhile, has been a top 25 wide receiver in receiving grade against zone coverage. He's in an excellent position to go over 51.5 receiving yards this weekend. Also, something that, Tyler, you brought to my attention was that Robert Woods missed practice, which would be good in terms of some more targets maybe headed Nico Collins' direction. What do you think about Nico Collins this week?
Yeah, I really like this spot. I like CJ Stroud a lot. And if CJ Stroud has a good game, Nico Collins is likely why.
He's been so efficient too, and man, just like the yards per catch. I think he leads the NFL or is top 5 in the yard per catch. It's just crazy. He's been having an exceptional season, and a lot of that does have to do with CJ Stroud, which has been kind of fun to watch. But a fun game in general between both young quarterbacks in this one, high prospects, and it's CJ Stroud who's putting on quite the show with the Houston Texans. You can tail us on Underdog Fantasy if you would like. Make sure if you don't have Underdog Fantasy, download it, use the promo code LineStar, and you'll get up to $100 of your deposit matched. And make sure you let us know where you're headed in the prop department. We're all trying to help each other out. Also, comment enters you into our prop bets contest. If we hit all 5 of our props, someone's getting $200. And if Tyler and I both hit our props, someone will get at least $50. So it's a win-win situation, and all you need to do is just comment below, help us out with a like of this video, and subscribe to our channel as well. We've got tons of content coming your way. I've got my college football props coming out tomorrow, and I've got some redeeming of myself to do, Tyler. So that'll be coming out. Plus, Tyler, you're coming out with some daily fantasy advice for everyone that's doing DFS in week 8, a must-see show for this weekend. Especially, we got a lot of nice leverage spots here, I'm sure. Any big teases for week 8 quite yet? Have you dug in on the research there?
I haven't dug in too much. I mean, obviously I'm doing a little bit, throughout the week, but I think it's going to be a pretty interesting week. It's another one like last week where there's not a lot of high scoring games. So it'll be a little more interesting to pick our spots and, stack a little harder for the games that we think could really go off.
I just want it noted too that I did not have a prop that was fading Zach Wilson this week, which shows real character development on my part, I think, Tyler. I have been fading him all season long. Going up against the Giants, though, I couldn't quite fade Zach Wilson this week. Couldn't quite do it there. But all right, that's going to do it for us. Again, comment below. Make sure to like this video. Good luck in all of your prop betting endeavors, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.